Hi, this is Remembering the Past, the show where we talk about people who've died recently who've had a profound effect on our history, our society, or our culture. Tonight we're going to make a brief mention of Cindy Stow, who died recently at the age of 41. Cindy Stow was a four-time champion on Jeopardy, and normally that wouldn't earn you a spot on this program, but she was special for two reasons. First, she never got to see her wins on television because she died before they were aired, and second, she went on Jeopardy knowing she was fatally ill, and she donated total prize money of $62,001 to a charity, the Cancer Research Institute. Here's a brief snippet of some of her answers on Jeopardy that helped her win, and comments from her boyfriend Jason Hess.
Dilbert creator Scott and First Lady Abigail. Cindy.
What is atoms? What is the peach state?
Correct.
What is Buddhism?
That's it.
What is the joy of cooking?
Cooking, yes.
What is Red Dawn?
That's the movie. Cindy Stow, and she came up with Santiago, the Spanish name for St. James. Did you risk a little or a lot? A lot. Way to go. 22,801 for the new Jeopardy champion, Cindy Stow.
She just kind of had one of these brains that sort of absorbed everything. I don't know where she found the reserve. Something in her kind of rallied to the cause, and she was strong enough for that day.
It's a beautiful but a tragic story. We're going to move on now to a brief mention of Rose Evansky, who died recently at the age of 94. Rose Evansky was a nice Jewish girl who was born in Germany. Before World War II, her father was put in Dachau, and she managed to escape Germany on one of the last Kinder transports. She settled in England and went on to become one of the leading hairstylists in the world. In fact, Vidal Sassoon, whose podcast we've done, said without question, she was the top female stylist in the country and the equal of any man. She opened a shop in London and West End Mayfair, which was sort of the epicenter of hairstyling in the 1960s. And among her accomplishments, she invented the blow-dry technique for styling women's hair, so they no longer had to spend time sitting under a hairdryer. Here's a brief Pathé report from 1964 on the legendary Rose Evansky.
It's often been said that a change of style can appear to alter a woman's personality, and top hairdresser Rose Evansky proves the point to the models and starlets who flock to her London salon. These shots of film and TV actress Joanne Dayton. Yes, that's Joanne, but you'd hardly recognize her from those photographs. What is it about a new hairstyle that gives a new outlook, a fresh personality? Or is it that our young star has found a secret beauty formula in this London hair salon? There's no secret, yet somehow that new sleek style has given Joanne an air of sophistication. Some women like to buy a new hat or a new dress. For others, it's a hairstyle which reflects the changing moods. And what could be more flattering than a style which can be adapted simply by the addition of a matching wiglet? When hairstyling is in such expert hands, then there's no limit to ingenuity. Take a tip from nature. And with this elegant cocktail creation, Joanne's personality seems to be changing again. Such feminine impulses to buy new clothes and indulge in beauty treatments can unveil a whole range of hidden characters. Even now, it's hard to imagine that Joanne really is the girl in these photographs. Husbands find it puzzling. It's just something which defeats the average man.
Well, the sexism of that last comment aside, Rose Evansky was one of the people who shaped hairstyling in the 1960s. We're going to move on now to Zsa Zsa, one of those people you don't need to know her last name. That's right, Zsa Zsa Gabor died at the age of 99. Zsa Zsa was a nice Hungarian girl. Zsa Zsa means Charlotte in English. She was always one of my mom's favorites for that reason. She was famous for 8 marriages, 9 if you count one on a ship. Her 2 sisters, Magda and Ava of Oliva fame, a much better actress than Zsa Zsa, by the way, and generally being an all-around celebrity. She was witty and charming. Here is BBC News on Zsa Zsa Gabor.
Zsa Zsa Gabor may have been a great beauty, but she was never a great actress.
I know everything. I heard the verdict.
It's dangerous for you to come here.
I must take that risk, and so must you.
Her screen career was undistinguished, though it did include camp classics like the truly terrible Queen of Outer Space.
If you must go, promise me you're going to come back to me.
Her greatest role was as herself, one of the first professional celebrities famous for simply being famous. She was rich, she was gorgeous, she was outrageous, and she ate men for breakfast. Her last marriage in 1986 was her 8th, or 9th, if you include an illegal ceremony conducted at sea.
Women don't even get married anymore today. They just have love affairs. As I was raised in a convent, I thought you have to get married, legalized, which was dumb. But now I just believe myself to live in sin. It's wonderful, girls. Don't get married. It's insanity. You have to become their servant. You have to look after their house, and they cheat on you. Who the hell needs that?
In 1989, she was briefly jailed for hitting a Hollywood traffic cop twice her size. She was well into her 70s, though during the court case she was accused of doctoring her driving license to disguise her age. By then, her film career had collapsed into self-parody.
Every time I see, I get lumps in my throat.
But she never lost a certain innocence, nor her wit. She once said, "I'm a marvellous housekeeper. Every time I leave a man, I keep his house."
Miss Hungary of 1936. That was Zsa Zsa. Her heyday was in the 1950s and 60s. Dion DiMucci contributed to her fame with his song Donna the Prima Donna, even though he calls her Zsa Zsa. Kid from the Bronx, what does he know?
She always wears constant pearls galore. She buys them at the 5-10 store. She wants to be just like a Zsa Zsa Gabor. Even though she's the girl next door.
And I didn't realize that, but she actually had a pretty successful act in Vegas as well. Here's a little of that story.
As for Zsa Zsa, the steady spotlight often spilled over into her private work. By 1952, it was clear that Zsa Zsa's marriage to George Sanders was beginning to cool. She was no longer content to wait at home while he went off on location. She jumped at the chance to play the pivotal role of Jeanne of Riel in John Huston's film Moulin Rouge.
They only pretend to upload my song. What they really want is another glimpse of my broken heart.
She didn't have a big part, but she was the soul of the Moulin Rouge. She's from that era. I know in another lifetime she must have lived there. And she must have lived in the royal courts of Hungary in another lifetime.
The night Moulin Rouge opened, Zsa Zsa met a man with whom she would make another kind of history.
International playboy Porfirio Rubirosa, the Latin lover from the Dominican Republic, is in 6th place.
Zsa Zsa also found him irresistible. The two began a scandalous affair. It was played out on a public stage in several countries and ignited a firestorm of media coverage. This did not intimidate Zsa Zsa.
Scandal never bothered Zsa Zsa. She once told me, says, "You cannot beat page one publicity."
The high-profile romance also made Zsa Zsa a more desirable commodity in Hollywood. By the end of 1953, she'd made 4 films, including the classic musical Lily. But real movie stardom would elude her. It was in her dozens of appearances on television that she made the biggest impression.
And now, be a good book salesman and go away. I'm doing my spring house cleaning. I'm dusting my dimes.
She was colorful. Zsa Zsa was never a major star or a major actress, but she was a major personality. If you're a member of the media, you'd rather interview her than any Academy Award winner.
Zsa Zsa's spontaneity and ability to roll with the punches landed her in the mecca of the novelty act, Las Vegas. She was paid $35,000 a week for a gig at the Flamingo Hotel. Her show sold out.
All she did was kind of like a stand-up comedy act. I'll say she was no Frank Sinatra or Lena Horne. She couldn't sing or dance or anything like that. And she was no Milton Berle when it came to comedy, although she got great publicity all the time she was there.
In 1953, the Last Frontier Hotel paid $500,000 for one special appearance by Zsa Zsa, Eva, and Magda together. The audience was mesmerized by their presence. Their appearance was marred by the arrival of Porfirio Rubirosa. Zsa Zsa must marry him, or he would marry Woolworth heiress Barbara Hutton. When Zsa Zsa again refused him, it was alleged that Rubirosa struck her. Zsa Zsa turned the incident into a publicity bonanza. She showed up at one press conference wearing a black eye patch. The soap opera continued at full speed when Rubirosa married Barbara Hutton. He then returned to Zsa Zsa almost immediately.
He should never have married Barbara Hutton in the first place. Barbara Hutton was a sweet woman, but she would be like a dried-up prune compared to Zsa Zsa.
Well, from there, we're going to move on to our feature, Dr. Henry Heimlich, the Cincinnati thoracic surgeon who devised the Heimlich maneuver and was responsible for saving thousands of lives. Here's Deaconess Hospital on Dr. Henry Heimlich.
Millions of people the world over know Dr. Heimlich is the man who researched and developed what is the most well-known life-saving procedure for choking victims, the Heimlich maneuver. The Heimlich maneuver replaced the back slap as the first response for choking and has saved uncountable number of lives since being introduced in 1974. Dr. Heimlich also developed 6 medical innovations during his 60-year medical career, devices, surgeries, and procedures that, like the Heimlich maneuver, have saved or transformed the lives of men, women, and children in every corner of the world. Dr. Heimlich's quest to find simple solutions to healthcare problems began while serving in the U.S. Navy group in China during World War II. Dr. Heimlich developed an innovative treatment for what was then an incurable infection of the eyelids, trachoma. The simple solution was to mix sulfadiazine into a base of shaving cream as treatment for this infection that was causing blindness in Asia and the Middle East. His experiences in China had a life-changing impact on Dr. Heimlich. While in Mongolia, in Japanese-controlled territory during World War II, his Navy group of 12 men, codenamed the Apostles, were protected by a 250-man Chinese guerrilla army. One of the Chinese soldiers was shot in the chest. He died in the arms of young Dr. Heimlich. Dr. Heimlich never forgot the incident. His frustration over his inability to save the soldier's life ultimately led to one of his most important innovations, the Heimlich Chest Drain Valve, a simple solution for a life-threatening problem. The valve is so simple and practical that during the Vietnam War, thousands of soldiers shot in the chest in battle were saved by their buddies who were able to use the device on the spot.
I remember this kind of cheapo model my dad had of a stomach. He would unzip the model and pull up a piece of what was represented the stomach to explain that was replacing the esophagus, which was his idea. You take a portion of the stomach, pull it up, and it replaces the esophagus that in this case had been destroyed by lye, in some cases destroyed by cancer and other things. He did this procedure at some hospital in New Rochelle, New York. This woman who hadn't swallowed food in 25 years took her first spoonful of Jell-O, and they had this incredible picture of her in the New Rochelle newspaper with this big smile, taking her first spoonful of Jell-O because of what my father had done.
In 1969, Dr. Heimlich became director of surgery at Jewish Hospital in Cincinnati. While reading the newspaper, he made special notice of articles that focused on people who died in a matter of minutes when food became caught in their throats. As a thoracic surgeon, the solution seemed obvious. Use air trapped in the lungs as a kind of natural bellows to clear the airway. He began thinking of a solution, started experimenting, and found the best results were obtained by a subdiaphragmatic pressure pushing up suddenly on the soft tissue under the diaphragm. His maneuver came to the attention of the press, and references to it began to appear in newspapers nationwide. A week later, the Seattle Times reported that a 70-year-old restaurateur had saved the life of a neighbor's wife using Dr. Heimlich's technique. Similar stories followed, including cases of children successfully performing the maneuver. The Heimlich maneuver spread worldwide. In 1975, the Heimlich maneuver was endorsed by the Emergency Medical Services Division of the American Medical Association. Death from choking declined dramatically following widespread publicity. The Heimlich Institute and the Deaconess Foundation rolled out a 6th-grade curriculum called Heimlich Heroes, which provides a platform to teach children the life-saving Heimlich maneuver using science, math, health, and language arts. It is a program that empowers children to be superheroes by helping them realize that they have the power to save a life.
Here he is explaining how he devised the Heimlich maneuver.
We have in Cincinnati the Heimlich Institute, which is a nonprofit research institute. We devise many medical things. We believe that you can solve many seemingly complex problems with direct, simple methods. Now, for example, the Red Cross was teaching for many years that when a person is choking on food, you hit them on the back, you do a back slap, or you put the finger in the throat and try to get the object out. In both instances, the object was being pushed tighter into the throat and causing death when there was a partial obstruction. So the simple solution was, how do you always drive the object away from the lung and toward the mouth? As a chest surgeon, I knew if you pushed up on the diaphragm and compressed the lungs, it would act like a bellows and blow the object out. And then I had to do some research. It really got famous by saving lives. Articles appeared about it, and as a life was saved, it caught the public's imagination. I would say most people in the world, I've gone to China and seen posters in Chinese, restaurant people by law in many, many states. They have to know how to do it.
I'm going to close on that note. I want to thank my producer and IT genius, Sid Tepps. As a final tribute to Dr. Heimlich, we're going to go with Judy Garland.
Put your arms